I've been listening to a lot of rants about Twilight. I've never read the books or watched any of the movies. I just think it's funny to listen to people whining about how bad it is, and then listen to the so-called Twitards completely illogical raving defenses over it. So, yeah, just from what I've heard, it's really bad, but I cannot judge for it because I haven't experienced it myself. So, this isn't a rant on Twilight. No, it's a rant on the rants. Yeah, well, see, most things I agree with, or rather I can understand where they're coming from. Like, with the bad writing, that's a good point. The Mary Sue's completely shallow, perfect, bland characters, that's legitimate. But there's one thing that everybody says is a problem with it that I just don't see eye to eye on that. They complain that the vampires aren't real vampires. Yeah, they say that Count Chocula is more of a vampire than Edward is. Now, okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever met a real vampire? Do you know any real vampires? Do you see them walking down the street? Are you a vampire? That's what I thought. Now, there's some questionable human beings who like to pretend they're vampires, but that's just the thing. They are fictional creatures, and these ranters they whine that oh, Edward's breaking the rules. Breaking. Okay. They go on these tangents about how he sparkles instead of like being killed by sunlight, I guess. Okay, from what I understand, when you're working with a fictional creature, you can take liberties on that. Okay, you can pretty much do whatever you want with them. Like, I mean, look at all the different kinds of dragons out there. I mean, there's that generic European fire-breathing junk. But then look at all the dragons that are in Pokemon. You got like that Garchomp, the big ground shark thing, and you got Altaria, the bird, and Flygon, that antlion thing that's supposed to be a dragon. See, it's like nobody's complaining, ooh, they don't look like real dragons. Well, actually, a while ago, a lot of people were griping about Dragonite not looking like a real dragon. And I think that's a load of crap too, because Dragonite is so adorable and cute, and I love it so much. But people, but these idiots like Salamence instead because it's so ugly. But they think it's cool looking, but no, that's okay. That's their opinion. And they think Salamence is what a real dragon should look like. You know, I never really liked vampires. They were always just really gross and creepy to me. But, well, that's what they're supposed to be, right? But to me, even more so than the usual monsters, like, I think, like, all the other monsters are fun because they're scary, but it's vampires. They're just plain scary and creepy. And, like, when I'm in Borders, like, looking, and I look at these manga shelves with these little chibi anime vampire girls. That's just wrong, because it's like they're like little cartoon girls that I don't want to get into it. Okay, they think Edward is puking all over Dracula's image, but they are contained within their own canons. I really don't think that the vampires in Twilight are really going to ruin any of the other vampires when it's just contained within its own series and they're not actually interacting with the other vampires in any way. I just don't get what the big deal is, because I don't really care about vampires at all. But, like, they think that Dracula is what a real vampire is supposed to be, and I think Dracula is just the epitome of the stereotype, honestly. But I never read Dracula either. I'm just speaking from all the stereotypes I've just seen of him in the media. But, it's just, it seems that vampires were always just pure evil. There wasn't really much semblance of good in them at all. But as we know in real life, there's some good and bad in all things. I think it was in I think the sparkling thing is an interesting idea, actually, to make it seem a little less threatening. There's actually another vampire story I read that took this kind of approach from being told from the first person of a vampire, where it was called Vampires in the Lemon Grove, I think, and it kind of broke the established rules too, because see, in this story, like, this vampire, he's been killing people and drinking their blood for his whole life, and he was sleeping in a coffin and only coming out in the dark, just like all the stereotypes, and like, he was miserable. But then he met this girl vampire, and she told him that he doesn't have to do all that stuff. Like, they were just lies or exaggerations, and he found out that he could go out in sunlight and not die, and he didn't have to drink human blood, but he still had this like craving for it, but he dieted off of it and like sucked on lemons instead, because like it made his teeth throb or something. But yeah, it made the vampire more like you could empathize with them instead of just being this horrifying demon that you hate. And I thought that was a pretty interesting idea. And Vampires in the Lemon Grove is a pretty short story. And from what I understand, the Twilight series, even just one book is like far too long. And Vampires in the Lemon Grove is probably a way better story than all the Twilight books put together from the research I've done of it. But yeah, see, like when you make these little deviations, it can make the things more interesting, actually. Is what I'm trying to say. And there are no vampires in real life, okay? Like it's just stupid that people just go, oh no, he's not a real vampire. It's ruining vampires. Oh. And there are no vampires. They don't exist. You can make up whatever you want about them. I could say that a vampire is like a pink bunny wearing a top hat. And it can fly. Oh, I really suck at getting on camera. I probably should have wrote a script first. And if you want a really good quartet of books, try the Softwire.